Hello, my name is Simon Tracer. I would like to talk to you about a special relationship that happens with all matter, not just obviously the electrons with the EM field, but obviously the positive ones, the protons. And now that we've gotten out of the way that the EM field likes it with both types, positive and negative, you gotta wonder, why are we wondering what actually is attracting everything to everything else? You see, compared to its size, the electromagnetic field really flows in and out of all matter, connecting them. So you have the electron, which does its own independent manipulation of the electromagnetic field, which allows it to go forward and also somehow makes a barrier between atoms and the rest of the world. But also, you end up with the protons and the neutrons. And there's an energy in there, and it's happening because of an even tinier thing than protons could ever be with the quarks and all of that. But when you also think about it, you have something called a solar flare. And solar flares are insanely huge. And they also work with electromagnetism. And we think that that's because it's a relationship between the sun and the constituent electrons within its core and everything throughout. But the problem is, what is that invisible stuff connecting the electron to the proton in the first place? That's the EM field. And we understand that relationship. But then when we scale it up to planetary-sized things, we understand, yeah, there is a connection there, but we don't call it electromagnetism because the specific interaction of the electromagnetic field and electrons, which is electromagnetism, is not the same type of strength of force that we witness in gravity. But it's not electromagnetism. There's a different word for the connection between electrons, the stuff flowing through them, and the protons. But the first thing you have to get into your head is that the EM force, electromagnetic field, is literally everywhere. It's not just something that exists whether you have mass and matter and stuff to interact with it, like neutrinos and whatever else. Also crazy matter that goes crazy fast, but goes through things. And it's not that gravity is by neutrinos. Neutrinos are, again, affected by the EM force, the EM field. If I were to look at a planetary body, or a celestial body, like the relationship of the sun versus any planet or any rock out there, and especially Jupiter, I would relate their connection to be very similar. In fact, indistinguishable from the connection between a proton and an electron. Consider the proton to be like the sun, or something that has mass and charge, and consider Jupiter to be like the electron. So the natural momentum that a star has as it goes through the galaxy is enough, and all the rest of the forces are enough, that you literally have lots of everything moving. So when it comes down to it, we really just need to have an understanding and expression of this hidden EM field, which is basically the thing that we are looking for when we're looking for dark matter. I genuinely see no difference between an electron's orbit, which is its momentum, versus the proton and the atom. If it were to go faster, it obviously increases its orbital size, but it still is a strong enough connection between it that it doesn't fly off. It's like being in a higher or lower orbit near a planet. You can do that without flying off in a large area. And the thing that does that is an increase of speed. And that's exactly what happens with the electron when it increases its orbital. You add a photon to it, it adds a bit of extra kinetic kick, and then for the time that it is able to go faster, it literally is going another small fraction of the speed of light faster. Right now, an electron will go at 2.2 million meters per second. So, adding the photon's energy to it, which is going near 300 meters per second, is like adding a 150 boost. But not exactly. It only adds so much, ironically. But it does make it so that the electron is forced to literally go so fast it can't stay that close to the protons anymore. It's accelerated away from it. But if you think of the electrons as going so fast, adding that extra speed, you also remember that there are a lot of, for all of the distance added in its speed, if you were to measure it out and then recoil it around the atom, you notice there are also more echoes compared to a regular amount of speed. I clock it around 4 quadrillion echoes of an electron around an atom per second. Because genuinely, that's what it converts to. It goes about 22 quadrillion atomic whips per second, which is 1/10 of a nanometer, as far as I'm understanding it correctly, I believe. So when you accelerate the electron, you're also going that much faster, and that many more times around the electron, around the atom, will make the electron have that many more copies of itself. So it literally, in order to, like, the physical space that it takes up is just that much bigger as well. Not to mention the fact that just going faster should make the electron have certain orbits. It also takes up more. It also makes up more echoes. Not a scientific term as far as most people have considered it, but the point is that if going faster is all it takes to pull you away from the protons, and going faster is all it takes to pull you away from a planet, a star, or a black hole, then that relationship is the same. The connections and the forces involved on a small scale versus a large scale might be a little bit conflated, because with electromagnetism you have a little bit of the electricity. The electric field and the magnetic field are interacting with the masses being so close to each other and moving so fast. But relative to a large mass like the planet Earth, there's less. You have to expand the surface area and understand that the amount of force per surface area is the same. So the amount of field interaction on the surface is all the same as the electrons and the protons. Literally, the square cube law, or no, the inverse square law, I believe is what it is. So as you go out, yeah, the field and the connectivity of everything is going to be driven by, apparently, it seems to be equivalent. The amount of mass is what makes the attractive force as strong as it is. I generally see no difference between an orbiting electron. Well, no, the problem is that I do see the difference between an orbiting electron and the Earth and the Sun, or the Earth and the Moon, or Jupiter. All of those things being bigger, the electromagnetic force, the electromagnetic field, the photoelectric effect, all these things that work on stuff on a small scale, these things aren't present on the large scale. So take those out of the equation and you end up with the much less effect, which is just relative push-pull of all electromagnetic field through the matter out towards literally everywhere else. It's not space-time curving. It just isn't. But instead, there is literally an EM field that is going from Jupiter to the Sun and back again, that is flowing through each other, making a bond that's strong enough to keep it from flying out into outer space. And if that's not what you're thinking it is, and if you're only thinking about the curvature of space-time, there's a few tests that you can do to prove it also. But here's the thing. This field, there has been lots of cases where people have talked about aligning the planets to make some strange effect. And it's also true that if you have a bunch of atoms aligned together, they seem to have a stronger connection there. Or like how lightning works through a chain, and it doesn't take as many electrons as you might think. The EM field extends from those electrons, but really it's not just electrons. The EM field is also excited, which makes lightning do its thing. plasmatizing the air obviously makes the light. The fact that there's an EM field around the planet and we're still thinking that the EM field, like, does the EM field bubble, right? That's made with, it's not, again, there needs to be a different word for this other phenomenon, which is the electromagnetic field itself interacting with other matter, with stuff like rocks and whatever. Because it has that interaction. It's just weak, which is what we call gravity. So yeah, gravity is a force. There is a carrier. It is the EM field. It's tiny, and it's not electrons. It's tinier than that. We're talking extra, super, extreme tiny. But it is the fluid that makes the interference pattern in the double slit experiment. You never say it correctly. So what makes me so confident in this? Veritasium made a video talking about how the electromagnetic waves, not the electrons themselves, but the waves of the electromagnetic field is what makes electricity flow through the wire. We're starting to wake up, but I've been waiting for 5 or 10 years for you guys to get it right. Please get it right.